to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am back again, and you're going to see me many, many times here on the podcast platform, interviewing such amazing people, working professionals, speaker, authors, life coaches. Anything you name, we have it here on the podcast, because in 2019, people are recognizing that this is the platform to be on every single season. If you are interested in learning more about different career and business trends, you definitely have to be tuned in to the BMWOC podcast. And just in case you didn't know, the BMWOC podcast is a platform that unifies people from all over the world to share their career and industry information, as well as sharing the same information to those who are encouraged to be in the same field that they are in. So make sure that you check out all of the pages and listen to all of the podcasts that we're going to have this year. We have 4 years worth of podcasts. So not only do you get everybody in 2019, but you also get to see people in 2016, 17, and 18. So it's definitely going to be something that you want to tune in. And I also want to remind you to please like, share, and vote for your favorite podcast participant. We have 7 awards coming up again this year for the 3rd year in a row. And so to keep your favorites in the running, please make sure you share, like, and vote. So before we get started with our dynamic speaker that's going to be here, he's a John Maxwell certified life coach and leadership trainer, and we're going to be talking to him. But before we get into that, we're going to be thanking our corporate sponsors, who are My Financial Home, Evangelism Radio, JNF Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Families Rock, Awakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLemore, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services, along with all 58 of them here, who is going to be helping to make this season a very huge success. So again, at the top of the podcast hour, we have another amazing speaker here who's also been a participant at the 2018 Veterans Biz Up Conference, and he's also going to be a workshop presenter at one of ALSTNTEC's small business strategy courses, and that is Chris Jordan. And Chris Jordan is the executive leader of TEAMCNE LLC, which is a Maryland state leader of 420 Fire Ministries, which has a leadership and discipleship training mission. Along with his certification of being a John Maxwell team, he also holds an associate's degree in criminal justice and public affairs from the Community College of Air Force. And he also has a bachelor's and a master's degree in management, public safety, executive leadership program from Johns Hopkins University. And in addition to that, he also holds a graduate level certificate in Christian ministry from Liberty University. So I am going to let you guys read the rest of his bio, because if I read the rest of his bio, it's going to take forever because he has such amazing things in his background. So Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you, Ann. I mean, my goodness.
Everybody says that. Yeah, you guys are amazing.
Well, I mean, what's funny is amazing people like you bring amazing people around, and it's just a pleasure to be a part of this again. So thank you.
Awesome. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And so just for those who are listening who are not familiar with Chris Jordan, please introduce yourself and where you're from, and how did you get into the military?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Chris Jordan. I am from south of Chicago in a town called Lansing, Illinois, and I got into the Air Force 2 weeks out of high school. It was just time to go. We'll just go with that. And so, yeah, I signed up, I passed the test, all that kind of stuff. And it was supposed to be about a 6-month wait. They called me up one day and said, "Hey, you ready?" Sure am, and there I was. So July 4th weekend of 1994, I was sitting in the barracks at attention in my bed while the fireworks were going off, scared for my life, but I did make it out okay, obviously. So that's kind of how I entered into the world of the military. So.
Okay. So what led you to go into the Air Force as opposed to any of the other armed forces that are out there?
Honestly, it was my ASVAB scoring. I went in and took the test because I went to one of the places that had all four, and they just kind of said, "Well, take this test, we'll see what happens, and how well you do." And I got a 99 on my ASVAB, and so basically it opened me up for anything I wanted. The Navy and the Air Force grabbed me right away. The Navy wanted me to go on submarines, and they wanted to pay me a crazy amount of money to sign up and do that. But I did not feel like I wanted to be inside of a tube underneath the water for an
Mhm.
extended period of time. So um,
Okay.
part of my heart was to do law enforcement, and I kind of always was intrigued with police and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And so the Air Force had an opportunity. Of course, they say law enforcement, but then back then it was security. But I didn't
Hmm.
know the difference going in. I was just like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go do this. And so I signed up to become security forces with
Hmm.
the Air Force, and so that's what I went into. And about halfway through my 11 years, I actually finally transitioned over into law enforcement when I was in Germany. So, yeah, it all
Hmm.
started with taking that ASVAB test, that whole
Hmm.
preparation thing. So, I mean, anybody who's thinking about going in the military definitely need to study up. Go to the library, get this ASVAB pre-test, just get yourself familiar with what some of those questions
Hmm.
are.
Now you said ASVAB test. Now, what exactly is that type of test, and how do you spell it? Because I want to make sure people understand, and maybe we could put this on your page as well, so that we can have a link where people can click on and understand what this test is all about.
Yeah, it's actually ASVAB. So it's A as an apple, S as in Sam, V as in Victor, A as in Adam, and B as in boy. What does it actually stand for? You know what? Honestly, I'm not 100. I think it's Armed Services Vocational something.
Yeah, some
I think
sort
if
of
you look it up online,
test for. Hmm.
yeah. But
Don't
I'm
worry,
if you just
guys. We're going to find it and have the link down here. But exactly
actually,
what
I
is
found
this
it.
test?
I found it. Yep. It's basically it's just like a basic math and cognitive thinking. So
Hmm.
some of those tests that you've taken in school, like for ACT, SATs, and all that, it's kind of along those lines. It's just very basic, like where are you at as far as your math? Where are you at as far as cognitive thinking, critical thinking, general studies, those kind of things. So it's I can't remember how long it is or anything like that, but there's tons of tests. Like I just got online just to find it. There's tons of free practice tests. You can go to the library, get it. All that kind of, yeah. So it's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery on test. So it just basically covers.
Hmm.
It'll help reveal if you're like mechanically inclined, or if your
Right.
technology is your thing, or
Hmm.
things like that. So that's what it's there for. It's kind of
Okay.
almost place you.
Yeah, so that just basically means that if you're ever looking to go into a certain branch of the military, you definitely have to make sure that you are brushed up on your English, math, science, and all of those
Yeah.
things in order to qualify. And like you said, they offered you a crazy amount of money. That's incentive enough right there to start studying.
Hmm.
If they can, and that actually writes your ticket to a lot of other different things as well. So so thank you. So now you in the Air Force, and somehow magically you decided that you wanted to go into law enforcement. So what was that thing for you that took you to that level to switch out from the military and the Air Force and pursue a career in law enforcement?
Well, are you talking outside the Air Force, or are you asking about my switch to law
However,
enforcement? And just go with the whole thing. Okay. So,
yeah. Yeah, just
so
go with the
basically,
whole thing.
I always wanted to be law enforcement, and the way the Air Force worked back then, it was totally separate. And then when I got sent to Germany, they had reorganized and they kind of combined security and law enforcement into one thing. And what actually got me into it, believe it or not, was a soccer game. So I haven't really shared this with too much, so this would be fun.
Hmm.
So I'm
Soccer
in
game, okay.
Germany, and in Germany and Europe, soccer's a big sport. And I always played sports. I never played soccer, but I thought, man, I play basketball, I play football, I play baseball. I'm an athletic dude. I can play soccer, right? And so I'm playing defense during one game. It was like my second game, and of course, these guys have played their whole lives, and they can kick a ball at about Mach 7. And I found that out the hard way as I tried to block one at a weird angle, and the ball actually took my foot out from under me and twisted me up really bad.
Oh
And
no.
so it chipped my fibula, did all kinds of weird stuff to me. So I ended up in a cast and stuff, and they put me up at the law enforcement desk, and I was doing alarms, and because I was up there, I learned how to do law enforcement desk sergeant, and a lot of I started really kind of self teaching myself and getting in good, if you will, with the team there. And next thing I knew, I was asked to test for the desk sergeant job, become law enforcement, and I was running law enforcement operations within 2 years there at Ramstein Air Base. So
Wow.
that really got me into the world of law enforcement
Mhm.
super super big time. I
Mhm.
did a lot of anti-terrorism training. I did all the DUI training. I did all the
Mhm.
ticket training, all that stuff, law enforcement
Mhm.
related on the base.
Mhm.
And so I was like, this is cool. And when I did
Mhm.
get out in 2005, the local police agency was hiring, and just was a simple transition. I applied, and they obviously accepted me pretty quick. And I was in the
Mhm.
academy and a police officer within that year. So
Wow. What an opportunity. Every time I hear amazing things like that, it just brings a smile to my face that, through the military that you were able to pursue things that you always wanted to do since you were younger. And now you have done that. And I think people who are listening to your podcast is also going to feel encouraged that if they decide to go into the military, that they have a lot of opportunities. The only thing that I think a lot of people always hear is that, you'll get your college paid for and you might, be able to get a house. But what I really love to share is experiences like what you just shared, which to me is more valuable than, or just as valuable as, college education, tuition payments and homes and things like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
in addition to all of that, what pieces of advice would you give for listeners regarding those type of transitions, because some people find military to be difficult and some of them seem to just go right into it and be fluent, but for those people who may be listening and finding it difficult, what are a couple of pieces of advice that you can offer that will help encourage them to keep going?
Oh wow. I guess trying to put it in perspective from how I kind of traveled through, like I was one of those that kind of got along fairly well. I adapt pretty easily to situations around me and stuff like that. And I guess what it was just kind of paying attention to, kind of your surroundings, your team, who's around you, and kind of finding your place in that. One of the hardest things to do sometimes is identify where you fit in the cog of a military organization, but it can be done. And I think that comes through asking questions, really challenging your supervisors and taking on extra responsibilities. One of the jokes in the military is don't ever volunteer for anything. Then when somebody says we need to volunteer, do not raise your hand, because you never know what you're getting into. But I would actually go against that. I would say they're looking for those that are willing to step out, and those are the ones that are going to be given opportunities, and you're going to have more choices. So I think if you're struggling, you actually need to kind of put yourself out there a little bit more. Uh, that's where you're going to start getting more opportunities. That would be kind of what I would say for that, because that's when kind of when those things happened for me. When I had my leg issue, I could have just done that and been quiet and not done anything but the job they gave me, and then gone back out to security. But instead, I started asking questions. Well, how would I get involved with this? This is something I think I might like to do. Is this an option for me? I mean, start asking questions, and the right people will come up, and they're like, okay, so what interests you? And they start digging into your personality and who you are and why you want to do that. So you've got to really open that up for yourself. Transitioning is hard in the military if you're not willing to take the actionable item steps or whatever you want to call it. If you're not willing to do that yourself, you're going to struggle a lot harder. You can float by, or you can step out and actually make a difference, not just in the lives around you, but in your own life, and set yourself up beyond the military just by
Mhm.
volunteering and asking questions.
And asking questions. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. So to fast forward, going forward, you had a life altering moment which actually shifted you toward becoming a John Maxwell life coach, which is definitely like on the other end of the spectrum. So do you feel comfortable talking a little bit about that and how
Absolutely.
that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. Up I mean, I was in the military. I was doing law enforcement, but my whole life, I was really living a life apart from uh, reality, I guess you would say. And, we all live a life, kind of whatever we want to call it, like in and about of ourselves, basically. So I was living a selfish life, right? I was doing whatever I thought was good for me. I was ruining relationships. I was, married a couple times. I was drinking heavily. There was a lot of things going on in my life that weren't good. Now, I always thought I was an okay person. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't do anything really bad. It wasn't, you know what I mean? But I wasn't really living life to the fullest of my potential. I was making a lot of bad choices. I was raised in a Catholic-ish kind of environment, so the only idea I had of, like, God or religion and stuff was really twisted because of the life I lived, and so I walked away from that very early on. And my whole life, I would tell people there was no God, and I would win that argument pretty easily. But about 6 years ago now, it'd be 7 years in October, I had an opportunity to be in my police car after a hurricane that came through the area, and we were just kind of doing road checks. And I'm one of those that need physical proof of anything. I can't believe it unless I see it, touch it, all that kind of stuff. And I had a physical impossibility happen in my car. My car spun out a wrong direction, should have gone in a ditch, didn't. There's very good potential I should have been dead based on just the scenario, but everything happened completely against what I know to be true. Does that make sense? So everything that happened totally went against what I knew as an accident guy and someone who does, investigations. It just went against it. And I had a moment there where I had to realize that there's something bigger than me out there. There's more of a significant life than what I was living. And at that point in my life, I was actually at one of the lowest I've ever been. I was going through a very bad divorce, very bad. I was about to lose my marriage, my son, my job was on the line. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I was pretty much at the bottom. And that was a very pivotal point because it gave me something different to look at. And so I started going back to church. I got involved with some people to help kind of guide me and lead me in that. And I basically gave my life to Jesus within the next few months, and that's what altered my whole life. And everything that I had been through really
Mm-hmm.
came to forefront. So the leadership thing came as a kind of everything I did in the military, everything I did in the police that I really didn't put a lot of thought into came to the forefront as this is an experience that needs to be harnessed and translated out into my future so that I can help impact other people's lives. And John Maxwell just kind of came on the scene because I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for a coaching slash kind of thing to get
Mm-hmm.
involved in, and that popped up on like a Facebook feed, and I checked it out and got certified. It made sense to me. It really fit with what my values and my beliefs were as a new Christian, and I really felt that it would help me to have some credibility to stand on right out the gate, give me some knowledge and some tools to kind of help me in this direction because I'd never gone out on my own before. I've always been in the government, umbrella, if you will, and so yeah, it kind of led me into that position. The whole team C&E thing came from the concept of our ministry and, kind of coming together and what you said at the beginning, becoming unified, uh, you know, in this world in some way, shape, or form. That's what really drove me into that. And so, yeah, I don't know if that made sense at all.
No, it makes perfect sense. And you know what? I appreciate your candor. And I know this was a sensitive, story, but I think that you done great. I've seen you out there doing all the wonderful things you did. And believe me, I have family who went through the military and have not come out so great. But first of all, I applaud the fact that you were able to, find your way out of that situation and turn it into a very positive thing. And
Mhm.
on top of that, just thanking you for your service in the military and making sure that we have the freedom to do things like this podcast platform
Yeah.
and all of that. We couldn't do it without our military forces. And so I always would like to, acknowledge that in every interview that I do. I do think that just watching how you are out there, just doing your leadership and inspiring not only Christians, but other men out there to speak speak up and be encouraged and be empowered is what I really like to do and like to see that's going out there. So, talk about Teams CNE. That is your platform, Inspired to Lead, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, it is time to talk about this great organization that you created and everything that you are doing and the impacts of,
Yeah.
who you touched along the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, Team CNE kind of evolved, kind of through a process of really getting certain people around me, and then honestly, it was kind of like a God thing where he just kind of brought these people around me, and really showed me the concept of team and that development and what that looked like, and then showed me that TEAM actually broke down the train, equip, and motivate, and so it was really just. I'll use kind of a scripture here, if I may. Romans 12:8 is kind of what drives me. That's where that passionate leader and that emphatic encourager comes from. Is that scripture where it says, if you're going to lead, lead with diligence. If you're going to encourage, encourage greatly. If you're going to give, give generously. It's just that whatever you're going to do it at 100%, right? We all have these moments where we just kind of need to be encouraged or inspired to take that next step in our journey to that significance. And that's kind of how I felt when I was saved 6 years ago. In the process of getting to Team CNE, I realized that I was given that opportunity. I was shown those steps, and I was truly inspired and encouraged by a lot of people around me to go ahead and do this. So now it's my turn to kind of give that back. So Team CNE is really about that. Our kind of our hashtag is Restore Faith Lead. So it's about restoring kind of ourselves, kind of getting back to who we are, what we're created for, what is our strengths, what is it that we want to do, help building faith in our abilities and strengths, and then helping us to begin to lead ourselves and in turn lead others, to not just add value, but to have that multiplied out. And so Team CNE formed, and then from that came actually He Leads started the whole thing. It was a conference for men, a leadership conference for men that kind of came out of just me and my wife laying in bed one day, one of those few days where we had together and we just didn't want to get up, scrolling through Facebook, just kind of talking. And we ran through a She Leads, and Emily, my wife, asked, "Is there anything for guys out there?" And being saved 6 years ago and being a man, I knew that a lot of the problems that happened in my life was because as a man, I really, one, didn't know what that even meant. I didn't have great, men around me growing up showing me what that looked like. I knew that it was kind of on my shoulders, especially now that I knew my position as a Christian, that those failures in my life were on me, and now I had a responsibility, I felt, to help others, especially young men and those in those positions, understand the truth about who they are and the potential they have, and how they can impact the world around them. And so we started with the He Leads conference, and in that process, my wife helped me to write my first book, Inspired to Lead, which is basically a book, 31 quotations and kind of my excerpts. But from that actually generated the whole concept of Inspired to Lead, and now that has become its own conference, and that is a co-ed, mixed men and women conference. And we're actually, believe it or not, I just put out, as you know, a couple days ago, our next conference coming here locally in Maryland in June. So it's really grown up. We've done it in Arkansas, so we're impacting the nation, and that's just awesome. And
Okay. Nice, 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 nice. Now, Chris, you were on a podcast last year, right?
right.
So you were on a podcast last year talking about bringing together law enforcement and the military, which was an excellent interview. And so, for those who are interested in hearing his podcast interview from 2018, the link will also be on his page, so you can click on it. So, since that time that you were on a podcast last year, what else amazing things has been happening for you since 2018? I know you have a nice little leadership package out there and you have been to a couple of places. Tell everybody what you've been up to.
Well, one, I got to do this amazing event called Veterans Biz Up, like you mentioned earlier, and that was just an amazing event because I got to meet a bunch of people, and one of them especially. Robert Thibodeau, who I know we both love to death. His story and my story correlate so well. We both were military, we both were police, we're both Christians that really are helping to bring that into everything that we do and everybody's lives we touch. And so being able to build a relationship with him has really helped. He's actually going to be one of the speakers at the conference. I just met with him
Nice.
today, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we're doing is exactly that, like really reaching out, making sure that we are doing everything we can to support military, to support the,
Mm-hmm.
police in any way we
Mm-hmm.
can, and really opening up those doors. It's opened me up to, travel to Arkansas. We've traveled to Georgia. We're looking to go to Florida. It opened me up to become a leader of what we call 420 Fire Ministries, and it's actually an international ministry that is all over the world, obviously, but they're focusing on the U.S. right now and setting up these hubs, and we're the first one in Maryland. And so it's these opportunities and these things that are going on are just continuously been placed before me. And I know ultimately, I give all glory to God, absolutely. But I also know that it's me embracing the fact that I have these experiences and I have this knowledge and I have these things to offer and to give. It used to be hard for me to say I'm a leadership expert. I'm not a big. I used to not be a big fan of putting that label. But what I realized is by me saying I'm a leadership expert, it actually puts me in a position of learning more, because I I get put into situations where people look at me as an expert, but I end up actually being able to facilitate a conversation that I learn and grow from. And it just opens up a lot of doors that I was unaware of, just because I had like a false humility. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the greatest gifts I've learned through this whole process is to own who you are, to definitely be accountable to that truth, to operate in that strength, but finding that real good line of being confident without being, over the top. And so it's really put me in a great position. I've been able to speak in schools. I started substitute teaching. I've been able to, really impact Toastmasters, which I'm moving up possibly again in another higher leadership role starting in June, if things go the way that they're looking. So it's really just continued to expand my influence. And I know that that's, I say that, very, very tenderly. Uh, the influence that I have is not necessarily mine. It's what is brought into my sphere, but I honor that and I respect that. And my heart is to serve. My heart is to get everybody I
Mm-hmm.
meet to the next level in their life and beyond, and whatever that
Absolutely.
means. And so
Absolutely.
that's my heart. That's my heart.
Yes. Yeah, you have a huge heart, Chris. I know that. And you know what? Congratulations with you and Robert Thibodeau, first off. If anybody doesn't know who Robert Thibodeau is, he is the founder and owner of Freedom Through Faith Ministries, and also this corporate sponsor, Evangelism Radio, who is sponsoring this BMWC platform. And first of all, I didn't even know you guys were like traveling all over, but that is so awesome that you were able to make that connection at the Veterans Biz Up Conference. And, we're going to be planning another conference probably in 2020. So be on the lookout for that. If anybody would like to know what Veterans Biz Up is, just go to www.veteransbizup.com. It is still out there, and we're going to be updating that site with all of the events and the action that was happening during that time as we get closer this year. And then on top of that, you're also like really out there in terms of the Inspired to Lead. I know you had a great conference. I've seen photos of that. And so if anybody's interested, please make sure you tap on Chris's website and get with him about the Inspired to Lead. And even more exciting is that he got a chance to work with about 5 or 6 other BMWC members to do an Inspired to Lead workshop through Facebook. So,
Mm,
and
yeah,
he
yeah.
also has another like platform out there that's actually teaching about leadership. And I've actually purchased that. And he was very instrumental in having Facebook Lives or Zoom webinars and following up with a recording. So all of the stuff I'm talking about today are things that I know that I have experienced with Chris firsthand. So if you guys are interested in, having Chris come out and speak at your event or have a leadership training, I highly advise that you contact him. So Chris, give everybody a website real quick so that they can, go to your website and check out all the good stuff you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's TEAMCNE.com. Very simple. CNE just stands for Chris and Emily. So if you ever need to know how to spell it, it's just CNE, but very simple.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think what you're talking about is the mind renewal method, which is absolutely
Yes.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Mhm.
I appreciate you bringing that up because that is actually what really got
Mhm.
me going. I went through that process, that 2-year process I mentioned earlier. That was where the mind renewal method kind of came from. It was me going through that process myself. So I know it worked for me, and I know it can work for others. And so, absolutely, thank you for bringing that up.
No problem. So I have one final question before we wrap up your interview. So what do you need personally and professionally to thrive and to continue doing what you're doing? What do you
Re-
need?
Relationships. It's all about connecting. My passion, like you said, is people, and I find that I the more I connect with people, especially on that emotional level, the more collaboration, the more impact, the more effective and efficient that is in everything we do. So whether that's coming together for a workshop or just coming together to talk or just coming in into Inspired to Lead and helping us in the conference or whatever I can do, like helping you, whatever that looks like, it's relationships. I just need people that are looking to grow, that aren't looking just to make excuses, but are looking to make a difference. And I want to align with those people that are right here, right now, ready to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference at a time that makes a difference. And that's what I need. That's all I need.
All right, all right. So you guys have heard it from Chris Jordan, is that relationships, leadership, discipline, time management, and all of those things that he talked about in his interview is what's going to make you successful in doing whatever it is you want to do, whether that be joining the military, going into law enforcement, or even becoming a life coach. So make sure that you still, if you like this interview, and I'm pretty sure you do, just go ahead and just hit the like button on Chris's page and also share and vote. And that is part of the vote. By listening to the podcast and liking, that is a vote. And want you to also tell people about it, share the links, have people listen. Go to all the mobile apps, download the mobile apps so that you can listen to all of the other podcasts so you're not missing all of this great information that's being shared. And so, with that, I want to thank you, Chris, for being part of the movement and being on the podcast platform to share your story once again. And congratulations to all of the new success and everything since last year you've been on the podcast.
Likewise, Anne, thank you so much for having me.